Doctor mistakenly injects cold, wealthy CEO's sperm into poor black virgin MAID. It changes their lives forever. Mr. Westfield had samples stored here for future fertility treatments with his ex-wife. The lab technician made an error during your procedure. What would you do if you discovered you were pregnant with your boss's baby? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. She stared at the pregnancy test like it was written in a foreign language. 2 pink lines. Impossible. Alana Jackson had never even kissed a man, let alone done anything that could result in this. The cramped bathroom of her Boston apartment felt smaller than her grandmother's closet back in Jackson, Mississippi. But the plastic stick in her trembling hands didn't care about impossibilities. 3 months ago, life was simple. Wake up at 5, clean the Westfield mansion until her hands cracked, send half her paycheck home to grandmama. Repeat, no dating, no complications, just survival with dignity intact. Have you ever had a moment where your entire world shifted in 10 seconds? Where everything you thought you knew about yourself suddenly made no sense? That's exactly what Alana felt staring at those 2 lines. The clinic visit had been Mrs. Westfield's idea. Every young woman should know her fertility status, she'd said, pressing the appointment card into Alana's palm. Consider it a gift from one woman to another. The woman had been kind to her, unlike her ice-cold husband who looked through Alana like she was furniture. Now Alana sat on her bathroom floor, phone shaking in her hand as she dialed the clinic. Fertility Solutions, Boston. How can I help you? This is Alana Jackson. I need to speak to Dr. Martinez immediately. Is this regarding your recent visit? Lady, I'm pregnant and I've never been with a man. So yes, this is about my recent visit. The silence stretched long enough for Alana's heart to hammer against her ribs. When Dr. Martinez finally came on the line, his voice carried a weight that made her stomach drop. Miss Jackson, can you come in today? We need to discuss your results. What results? I came in for a fertility check, not to get pregnant. There's been a complication, a serious one. Do you know someone who's faced an impossible situation? Someone whose life changed overnight through no fault of their own? Drop a heart in the comments if you've ever felt completely lost. 2 hours later, Alana sat in the same sterile room where her nightmare began. Dr. Martinez avoided her eyes as he spoke. During your fertility assessment, there was a procedural error. You were accidentally inseminated with donor sperm. We're investigating how this happened. But you did what to me? Miss Jackson, please understand this has never happened before. We have protocols. You put someone else's baby in me without my permission? Her voice cracked. Whose baby am I carrying? Dr. Martinez pulled out a thick file. The donor this is confidential, but given the circumstances, Grayson Westfield. The name hit her like cold water. Her boss, the man who'd never spoken directly to her in 8 months of cleaning his house. The man whose coffee she made every morning, whose bed she changed, whose life she cleaned up after while remaining invisible. You mean to tell me I'm carrying my boss's baby? Mr. Westfield had samples stored here for future fertility treatments with his ex-wife. The lab technician made an error during your procedure. Alana's hands found her stomach. Something was growing inside her that belonged to the coldest man she'd ever met. A man who probably didn't even know her name. What would you do if you discovered you were pregnant with your boss's baby? A boss who treats you like you don't exist? Tell me in the comments what your first reaction would be. As she walked out of that clinic, Alana had no idea that across town, Grayson Westfield was about to receive a phone call that would change everything. A call about a mistake that would expose secrets he'd buried, lies he'd told, and a heart he'd convinced himself didn't exist. The girl he'd never noticed was about to become the most important person in his world. Grayson Westfield was reviewing quarterly reports when his phone rang. He never answered unknown numbers, but something made him pick up. Mr. Westfield? This is Dr. Martinez from Fertility Solutions, Boston. The pen in Grayson's hand stopped moving. He hadn't heard from that clinic since his divorce finalized 2 years ago, since he'd made the decision to reverse his vasectomy without telling anyone, hoping he and Rebecca might try again. But hope had died with their marriage. There's been an incident involving your stored genetic material. What kind of incident? Sir, I think it's best if you come in. We need to discuss this face to face. Grayson's corner office overlooked Boston Harbor, 40 floors above the world below. From up here, people looked like ants. Problems could be solved with phone calls and checks. But Dr. Martinez's voice carried something that made his chest tighten. Tell me now, your samples were accidentally used in a procedure with another patient. She's pregnant, Mr. Westfield. The words didn't compute. Grayson set down his pen and walked to the window. That's impossible. My samples were frozen for my ex-wife's use only. There was a mix-up in the lab. The patient is 23, healthy, and approximately 12 weeks along. 12 weeks. The number rolled around in his head like a marble in an empty box. Who is she? I can't release that information over the phone. Doctor, I'm not asking. I'm telling you to give me her name. Alana Jackson. The name meant nothing. Then everything. The quiet girl who cleaned his house. Dark skin, careful movements, eyes that looked everywhere except at him. She'd been invisible until this moment. Have you ever realized you've been blind to someone who was right in front of you? Someone whose life you were about to turn upside down without even knowing their name? Grayson hung up and called his lawyer immediately. Marcus, I need you to handle something quietly. Very quietly. What kind of something? The kind that could destroy everything I've built. 20 minutes later, Grayson stood in his mansion's living room, really seeing it for the first time in months. The coffee table gleamed. Fresh flowers sat in the vase by the window. The hardwood floors reflected the afternoon light. All of it perfect because of hands he'd never paid attention to. Alana's hands. His housekeeper, Mrs. Chun, appeared in the doorway. Mr. Westfield, you're home early. Where's the girl? The one who cleans upstairs. Alana? She called in sick today. Poor thing sounded terrible. Sick because she was carrying his child. Grayson walked to his study and pulled out the employee files. Alana Jackson, 23, address in Dorchester. Emergency contact, Ruth Jackson, Jackson, Mississippi. Grandmother. The photo paper-clipped to her application showed large brown eyes and a careful smile. He'd signed her paychecks for 8 months and never really looked at her face. Now she was having his baby. What do you do when you discover the person you've ignored is carrying the child you thought you'd never have? When your mistake becomes someone else's life-changing moment. As Grayson stared at Alana's photo, one thought burned through his mind. Damage control. This situation needed to be contained, managed, solved. The girl would need money, lawyers, non-disclosure agreements. He had no idea that the woman in the photo was about to teach him the difference between solving a problem and facing the truth. Alana was throwing up for the 3rd time that morning when someone knocked on her apartment door. She'd called in sick to work, unable to face the mansion where her boss lived, the man whose baby was growing inside her. Through the peephole, she saw a woman in an expensive suit holding a briefcase. Miss Jackson, I'm Jennifer Walsh, attorney for Mr. Westfield. We need to talk. Alana's stomach dropped. He knew. Of course he knew. Rich men like Grayson Westfield didn't let anything happen in their world without finding out immediately. She opened the door, but didn't invite the woman in. Mr. Westfield would like to meet with you today to discuss your situation. My situation? The pregnancy, Miss Jackson. We understand this is difficult, but Mr. Westfield wants to handle this matter with discretion and fairness. Handle this matter like she was a business problem to be solved. What if I don't want to meet with him? Jennifer Walsh's smile was sharp as glass. Miss Jackson, I think you'll find Mr. Westfield's offer very generous. Life-changing, even. An hour later, Alana sat in the back of a black car, heading toward downtown Boston. She'd never been inside a vehicle this expensive. The leather seats felt like butter, and the driver wore a suit nicer than anything in her closet. Have you ever felt completely out of your depth? Like you were walking into a world where you didn't speak the language or know the rules. That's exactly how Alana felt as the car pulled up to Westfield Industries. The building stretched into the sky like a glass monument to power. Inside, everything was marble and steel and the kind of quiet that only money could buy. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt endless. Grayson Westfield's office was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city spread out below like a map. Behind an enormous desk sat the man she'd served coffee to hundreds of times, but this was different. Here, he looked like what he was, someone who owned the world. "Miss Jackson, please sit." His voice was the same cold tone he used when asking for his coffee. No words, no acknowledgement that she was carrying his child. "I'll be direct," he said, sliding a folder across the desk. "This situation is unfortunate for both of us. I'm prepared to make it right." Alana opened the folder. The number on the check made her dizzy. More money than she'd see in 10 years of cleaning houses. "This covers your medical expenses, lost wages, and compensation for your trouble. In exchange, you sign a non-disclosure agreement, and we handle the termination quietly." Termination. He wanted her to end the pregnancy like it was a business contract. "You want me to kill your baby for money? I want us both to move on from an unfortunate mistake." What would you do if someone offered you life-changing money to erase a miracle? Even if that miracle came from mistake? Alana stood up, leaving the check on his desk. "Mr. Westfield, this baby might be your mistake, but it's my choice, and I choose life." As she walked toward the door, she heard him call after her, "Miss Jackson, you don't understand what you're refusing." She turned back, meeting his cold blue eyes for the first time. "No, sir. You don't understand what you're asking." The elevator doors closed between them, but Alana knew this wasn't over. Men like Grayson Westfield didn't accept no as an answer. 3 days after Alana walked out of his office, Grayson couldn't concentrate on anything. The quarterly reports sat untouched on his desk. His assistant had rescheduled 2 important meetings. All he could think about was the way she'd looked at him before leaving. Like he was the monster in this story. His lawyer called twice daily with updates. "She hasn't signed anything. Won't return our calls. We could pursue legal action, claim emotional distress, breach of contract." Contract for what? She didn't ask to get pregnant. "Sir, if this goes public, the media will have a field day. Tech billionaire accidentally impregnates his maid? Your company's stock will tank." That night, Grayson found himself driving through Dorchester, looking for Alana's address. The neighborhood was nothing like Beacon Hill where he lived. Small houses pressed close together, chain-link fences, kids playing in narrow yards. He'd forgotten places like this existed. Her apartment building needed paint and new steps. Through a lit window on the second floor, he could see her moving around a tiny kitchen. Even from the street, she looked tired. What kind of man sits in his car watching the woman carrying his child because he doesn't know how to talk to her? The next morning, Alana was walking to the bus stop when a familiar black car pulled up beside her. "Miss Jackson." She kept walking. Grayson got out and followed her. "Please, 5 minutes. I said no to your money, Mr. Westfield." What else is there to talk about? The baby. That stopped her. She turned around, and for the first time, he noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the way her uniform hung loose on her shrinking frame. "What about the baby? Are you okay? Are you eating enough?" The question seemed to surprise them both. Alana's hand moved protectively to her stomach. "I'm fine. You look tired. I work 3 jobs now. Your house, the restaurant downtown, and weekend cleaning for Mrs. Patterson. Tired is what I do. 3 jobs? What? Because babies need things. Cribs, clothes, diapers, medical care. Money doesn't grow on trees in my world." Grayson felt something crack inside his chest. "You don't have to work 3 jobs. Let me help." Help or control? The question hit him like a physical blow. What's the difference? Help means you care about what I need. Control means you care about what you want. Have you ever had someone show you exactly who you are in one sentence? Make you see yourself clearly for the first time? Alana started walking again, but slower this time. "Miss Jackson." "Alana, I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Be someone's father." She stopped walking. When she looked at him, her expression had changed. Softer, but still guarded. "Then maybe you should start by learning my last name wasn't the only thing you never bothered to know about me." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been cleaning your house for 8 months. I know you take your coffee black. You read the Wall Street Journal every morning, and you work late every Thursday. I know you keep a picture of your ex-wife in your desk drawer, but you never look at it. I know you haven't eaten a home-cooked meal in 2 years because your refrigerator only has takeout containers. You notice all that. I notice everything, Mr. Westfield. The question is, what are you going to notice about me? The bus arrived, and Alana got on, leaving Grayson standing on the sidewalk with more questions than answers. That afternoon, Grayson did something he'd never done before. He canceled all his meetings and drove to Alana's neighborhood again. But this time, he got out of the car. The corner market where she shopped was cramped and loud. Nothing like the grocery stores in his part of town. He found her in the baby aisle, holding a tiny yellow onesie and checking the price tag 3 times. $17 for something that small, he said behind her. Alana jumped, dropping the onesie. Are you following me now? I was in the neighborhood. Right. Billionaires always shop at corner markets in Dorchester. She bent to pick up the onesie, and Grayson noticed her hands were shaking slightly. When she stood up, their faces were closer than they'd ever been. Close enough for him to see gold flecks in her brown eyes. You're scared, he said. Of course I'm scared. I'm 23, single, and pregnant with a baby I never planned. My grandmother thinks I'm still a virgin, and now I have to explain this miracle baby to her. Miracle, that's what she'll call it. Grandmama believes God works in mysterious ways. Something in her voice made Grayson's chest tight. What do you believe? I believe I'm in trouble. Without thinking, he took the onesie from her hands and walked to the checkout counter. The cashier looked back and forth between them like they were speaking a foreign language. You don't have to pay for that, Alana said. I know. Outside the store, she stopped walking. Why are you really here? Because I haven't slept in 3 days thinking about you throwing up alone in your apartment. The honesty surprised them both. That's not your problem to solve. What if I wanted to be? Alana studied his face like she was trying to solve a puzzle. You don't even know me. Then tell me something. Something real. They were standing on a busy street corner, people walking around them, cars honking, the city moving at its usual frantic pace. But in that moment, it felt like they were the only 2 people in the world. I wanted to be a teacher, Alana said quietly. Before I had to drop out of college to take care of my grandmother. I was studying elementary education because I wanted to give kids the kind of teacher who sees them, you know? Who notices when they're struggling or scared or brilliant. Why didn't you go back? Teachers don't make enough money to support a family. Cleaning houses pays better. Grayson felt ashamed of something he couldn't name. What else? I read romance novels on the bus because they're about people who get happy endings. I've never had a boyfriend because I was too busy working, and I'm terrified this baby is going to grow up thinking their mama wasn't good enough. Good enough for what? For you. For your world, for the life this child deserves. Have you ever looked at someone and realized they've been carrying weight you never knew existed? That their strength came from surviving things you never had to face? Grayson reached out and touched her hand. The first time he'd ever touched her deliberately. Alana, you're good enough. You don't know that. I'm starting to.
When she didn't pull her hand away, something shifted between them. The baby growing inside her wasn't just his mistake anymore. It was their shared future, complicated and unexpected and maybe, just maybe, worth fighting for. Have dinner with me, he said. I can't afford the kind of restaurants you go to. I wasn't talking about a restaurant. The invitation hung in the air between them. Dangerous and thrilling and completely insane. A billionaire and his maid, having dinner together like they were equals. Like they were 2 people who might be falling for each other despite every reason they should stay apart. Okay, she whispered. Neither of them knew that decision would change everything. Dinner wasn't at a fancy restaurant. It was takeout Chinese food on the floor of Alana's tiny apartment, because her kitchen table only had 2 chairs and one of them was broken. Grayson sat cross-legged on her worn carpet, looking completely out of place in his $1,000 suit. He'd never eaten sitting on the floor before. He'd definitely never shared lo mein with a pregnant woman who made him nervous in ways he didn't understand. This is weird, Alana said, picking at her sweet and sour chicken. The food, you, here, in my apartment acting like a normal person. What's normal supposed to look like? She gestured at him with her chopsticks. Not you eating Chinese takeout on my floor, while wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent. Grayson looked down at himself and started laughing. Actually laughing, not the polite chuckle he used in board meetings. The sound filled her small space like music. You're right. This is completely insane. So why are you here? The question hung between them. Grayson set down his food and really looked at her. Hair pulled back in a messy bun, oversized sweater hiding her small bump, bare feet tucked under her legs. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with money or makeup or trying to impress anyone. Because for the first time in 2 years, I don't feel empty. The honesty hit the room like lightning. Have you ever had someone tell you exactly what you needed to hear, even when you didn't know you needed to hear it? When someone's truth becomes your hope. Empty, Alana asked softly. My ex-wife used to say I had a heart made of ice, that I cared more about profit margins than people. She wasn't wrong. What changed? You did. The words were out before he could stop them. Alana's eyes went wide. Grayson, 3 days ago, I didn't know your first name. Now I can't stop thinking about whether you're eating enough, sleeping enough, if you're scared or happy or... He ran his hands through his hair. I've never felt responsible for another person before. Not really. Is that what this is? Responsibility? No. He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. This is something else entirely. Alana's heart hammered against her ribs. We can't. This is crazy. You're my boss. I'm your employee. You're rich. I'm poor. You're white. I'm black. This baby wasn't supposed to happen. And we weren't supposed to. Supposed to what? Feel like this. The admission hung in the air between them, dangerous and electric. How do you feel? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Like I'm falling off a cliff and flying at the same time. Grayson reached out and touched her face, his thumb tracing her cheek. I've never wanted to catch someone before. When he kissed her, it was soft and careful, like he was afraid she might disappear. Alana had imagined her first kiss 1,000 times, but never like this. Never with her boss. Never while pregnant with his baby. Never feeling like the world was shifting beneath her feet. She pulled back, breathing hard. This is crazy. Completely insane, he agreed, but he didn't move away. What happens now? I don't know. I've never done this before. Done what? Fallen for someone. The confession made her dizzy. Grayson Westfield, the man who treated emotions like business transactions, was falling for her. What would you do if the person who was supposed to be your biggest problem became the one thing that made sense? Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt your heart and your head pulling in opposite directions. As they sat there on her apartment floor, surrounded by takeout containers and the remains of their carefully constructed walls, Alana realized something terrifying. She was falling too, and there was no going back from this moment. Alana woke up alone. The takeout containers were gone. Her apartment was spotless, and there was a note on her kitchen counter written in careful handwriting. Thank you for dinner. Gee, that was it. No phone number, no plan to see each other again. Just a polite thank you, like she'd serve him at a business meeting. She crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. For 3 days, nothing. No calls, no texts, no black car pulling up beside her at the bus stop. Grayson had kissed her like she was precious, told her he was falling for her, and then disappeared like it never happened. But her body remembered. Every time she closed her eyes, she could feel his hands on her face, taste the sweetness of that kiss, hear the way he'd said her name like it was something sacred. Have you ever had someone make you feel like you mattered, only to vanish the next day? Like maybe you imagined the whole thing? By Friday, Alana was angry. She showed up to clean his house with her jaw set and her walls rebuilt higher than before. Mrs. Chin met her at the door with worried eyes. He's been impossible all week, snapping at everyone, locked in his office, won't eat. Maybe you could. I'm here to clean, not to manage his mood. But as she dusted his study, Alana found herself looking at the desk where he'd offered her money to end her pregnancy. The same desk where he probably sat every day, running his empire while pretending their kiss never happened. That's when she saw it. Her crumpled note, smoothed out and tucked under his keyboard. He'd kept it. You're here. His voice made her jump. Grayson stood in the doorway, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usually perfect hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled, his blue eyes tired and hungry and focused entirely on her. "I work here," she said, not looking at him. "Alana, don't. I need to explain. You don't owe me anything." She kept dusting, her movements sharp and angry. "One kiss doesn't change who we are, doesn't it?" That made her stop. She turned around, and the look on his face nearly broke her resolve. "I've been in meetings with lawyers all week," he said, "trying to figure out how to handle the situation if this goes public. Trying to protect you from what's coming." "What's coming?" "The media. My ex-wife. Shareholders who will see this as a scandal that could cost them millions. People who will tear you apart just for being connected to me." The weight of his world settled on her shoulders like a heavy coat. "So you decided to protect me by pretending Tuesday night didn't happen?" "I decided to protect you by staying away before I make it worse." "That's not your choice to make, isn't it? What would you do if someone tried to save you from themselves? If they walked away to protect you?" But walking away felt like the biggest betrayal of all. "No," Alana said firmly. "It's not. You don't get to kiss me, tell me you're falling for me, and then decide what's best for my life. I've been making my own choices since I was 16 years old. Even when those choices could destroy you, especially then." The air between them crackled with tension and want and the weight of everything they weren't saying. "I can't promise this won't get messy," Grayson said. "I never asked for promises. I asked for honesty." "Then honestly, I haven't stopped thinking about you for 1 second since Tuesday." The admission hit her like a physical touch. "What are we doing, Grayson? Something that's either going to save us both or ruin everything." The call came at midnight. Alana was reading in bed when her phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. "It's me." Grayson's voice was tight with panic. "Don't go online. Don't read the news. Don't answer your door." "What are you talking about?" "Someone leaked it. The story. It's everywhere." Alana's blood went cold. She grabbed her laptop with shaking hands and searched her name. The headlines made her sick. "Billionaire's baby mama. MAID claims accidental pregnancy. From cleaning lady to payday. The $50 million mistake. Westfield scandal. Tech CEO's secret baby with employee." The photos were worse. Her walking to the bus stop, coming out of the clinic. Old pictures from high school that someone had dug up from social media. They'd made her look desperate, scheming, like she planned this whole thing. "Alana, are you there?" "They're calling me a gold digger," she whispered. "They're saying I seduced you, that I planned this." "I know. I'm coming over." "No, don't. That'll just make it worse." But he was already at her door 20 minutes later, and one look at his face told her everything. This was bad. Worse than bad. "My lawyers are handling it," he said, pulling her into his arms. "We'll sue everyone who printed lies. We'll make them print retractions. Grayson, they have pictures of us having dinner. Pictures of you kissing me." His face went white. "What pictures?" Alana showed him her laptop screen. There they were, crystal clear through her apartment window. His hands on her face. Her eyes closed as he kissed her. The headline read, "Boss and Maid. The romance that started a scandal." "Someone was watching us," she breathed. "Rebecca." The name came out like a curse. "My ex-wife. She hired a private investigator." Why would she do that? Because she knows about the baby, about the fertility clinic, and she knows if this scandal destroys my reputation, she gets half my assets in the divorce settlement. Have you ever realized that someone's love turned into hate so toxic they destroy innocent people just to hurt you? That some people would rather see the world burn than let you be happy? Alana sank onto her couch, the weight of it all crushing her. "So, I'm just collateral damage in your divorce war?" "No, you're not collateral damage. You're..." He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "You're the best thing that's happened to me in years, and I'm not going to let her destroy you. How do you stop something like this? I'm nobody. They're powerful people with unlimited money and lawyers. You're not nobody. You're the woman I'm falling in love with. You're carrying my child, and I'm going to fight for both of you." The declaration hung in the air between them, stronger than any promise. "Love?" she whispered. "Yes, love. Crazy, impossible, life-changing love." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "This is going to get worse before it gets better, isn't it?" Probably. What if I can't handle it? What if this breaks me? Grayson cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. Then I'll put you back together. Every single piece. What would you do if loving someone meant becoming a target? If you're happy, ending required surviving a war first? Drop a comment below if you've ever had a fight for love. Outside, photographers waited in the shadows, ready to document every moment of their life together. The battle for their future was just beginning. But inside that small apartment, holding each other against the storm, they both knew they'd rather fight together than be safe apart. The media circus lasted 2 weeks. Photographers camped outside Alana's building. Reporters called her grandmother in Mississippi. Someone leaked her college transcripts, her employment history, even her high school yearbook photo. Through it all, Grayson was there, not trying to fix everything or make it disappear, but simply present, bringing her groceries when she couldn't leave her apartment, sitting with her while she cried, holding her hair back when morning sickness mixed with stress made her sick for hours. "I can make this stop," he said one evening as they watched the news coverage from her couch. "One word from me, and every story gets pulled. Ow! I buy the companies. All of them. News networks, tabloids, gossip websites. I make them disappear." Alana stared at him. "You do that? For you? I'd buy the entire internet if I had to." The power behind that statement should have thrilled her. Instead, it scared her. No, I don't want you to buy my freedom. I want to earn it. Have you ever had someone offer to solve all your problems with money, but realize that accepting would cost you something more valuable than cash, like your self-respect or independence? Alana, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Yes, I do. To myself. That night, she did something that shocked everyone, including Grayson. She called a press conference. The hotel conference room was packed with reporters, cameras, and the vultures who'd been picking apart her life for 2 weeks. Alana walked to the podium wearing a simple black dress that showed her growing bump, her head held high despite her shaking hands. "My name is Alana Jackson," she began, her voice clear and strong. "And I'm here to tell you the truth." She told them everything. The clinic visit, the mistake, the pregnancy she never asked for but chose to embrace, the boss who became something more, the love that grew from the most impossible circumstances. "I didn't seduce anyone," she said, looking directly into the cameras. "I didn't plan this pregnancy. I didn't chase a rich man for money. What I did was choose to see a miracle where others saw a mistake. What I did was fall in love with a man who saw me as a person, not a problem to be solved." The room was dead silent. "You want to call me a gold digger? Fine. But know this. The only gold I'm digging for is the chance to give this child a life full of love, respect, and dignity. The kind of life every child deserves, regardless of how they were conceived." When she finished, the questions came like bullets. But Alana had found her voice, and she answered every single one with honesty and grace that made the reporters look small and mean in comparison. Later, in the hotel room Grayson had booked for her safety, she found him waiting with tears in his eyes. "You were magnificent," he said. "I was terrified. You were brave. The bravest person I've ever seen." When he kissed her this time, it wasn't soft or careful. It was desperate and grateful and full of a passion that had been building for weeks. Alana kissed him back with equal fire, her hands tangling in his hair, her body pressed against his. "Are you sure?" he whispered against her lips. "I've never been more sure of anything." What followed was tender and intense. Two people claiming each other completely for the first time. No videos, no words, no fear of tomorrow. Just love, pure and overwhelming and worth every battle they'd fought to get here. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight for something that was worth every moment of pain? When love required courage you didn't know you had. As they lay tangled in hotel sheets afterward, Alana traced patterns on Grayson's chest. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we build something that lasts. Together. Outside, the city buzzed with news of her press conference. Social media exploded with support from women who saw themselves in her story. The narrative was changing, but their real life was just beginning. The public support changed everything. Women across the country rallied behind Alana's story. Hashtag #ChooseLife and hashtag #MiracleNotMistake trended on social media. Donations poured in for single mothers and fertility clinic accountability. What started as a scandal became a movement. But the real change happened in private moments. Like when Grayson showed up at Alana's prenatal appointment and held her hand during the ultrasound, tears streaming down his face as their baby's heartbeat filled the room. "It's really real," he whispered. "Did you doubt it?" "I doubted I deserved it." Or when Alana finally agreed to see his penthouse, not as his employee, but as the woman he loved. The view from 40 floors up took her breath away, but what moved her more was watching Grayson see his home through her eyes. "It's beautiful," she said, "but it's not a home." What would make it a home? Life, laughter, pictures on the walls, a kitchen that gets used for more than coffee. That weekend, he cooked for her. Badly. Smoke alarm going off, pasta stuck to the pot, chaos everywhere. But Alana laughed until her sides hurt, and Grayson realized he'd never heard a more beautiful sound. Have you ever watched someone completely change who they thought they were for love? When someone lets you see them vulnerable and real instead of perfect and untouchable. The hardest moment came when Alana finally took Grayson to meet her grandmother in Mississippi. Grandmama Ruth lived in a single-wide trailer in Jackson, surrounded by photos of family and a garden that bloomed despite the poor soil. She was 78, sharp as a tack, and completely unimpressed by Grayson's money. "So you're the boy who got my grandbaby pregnant," she said, looking him up and down. "Yes, ma'am. By accident." "Yes, ma'am. And now you think you love her." "I know I love her." Ruth Jackson studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Good, because that baby needs parents who choose each other every single day, not just when it's easy." That night, lying in Alana's childhood bedroom under a roof that leaked when it rained, Grayson held her close and whispered, "I want to marry you. Because of the baby, because I can't imagine my life without you in it." "Grayson, I know it's fast. I know it's crazy, but nothing about us has been normal from the beginning." Alana was quiet for so long he thought she'd fallen asleep. Then she said, "Ask me properly." "What?" "If you want to marry me, ask me properly. Not in a hotel room, or because you think you should. Ask me because you can't live without me." The next morning, Grayson got down on one knee in Ruth Jackson's tiny kitchen, in front of the woman who raised Alana to be strong and independent and worthy of love. "Alana Jackson," he said, holding a ring that sparkled like captured starlight. "Will you marry me? Not because it's convenient or expected, but because I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone." "Yes," she whispered, and the word changed everything. What would your answer be to a proposal that honored everything you are instead of asking you to become something else? Tell me in the comments what your dream proposal would look like. As Grayson slipped the ring onto her finger, Grandmama Ruth smiled and said, "Now that's how you start a marriage. With truth and witnesses and breakfast ready on the stove." Their two worlds hadn't just merged. They'd created something entirely new. Planning a wedding in 3 weeks should have been impossible. But when you're marrying one of the richest men in Boston, impossible becomes merely expensive. Alana stood in the bridal boutique, staring at herself in a mirror surrounded by dresses that cost more than her old car. The sales associate kept bringing gowns that would hide her bump, but Alana rejected each one. "I'm not hiding this baby," she told Grayson when he called to check on her progress. "This child is the reason we found each other." "Then show the world," he said. "Show them how beautiful you are carrying our future." The dress she finally chose was simple white silk that flowed over her growing belly like water. When Grayson saw her walking down the aisle of the small church in Jackson, Mississippi, he forgot how to breathe. Have you ever seen someone and thought, "This is what perfect looks like"? When everything in your world suddenly makes sense because of one person. Grandmama Ruth had insisted on a church wedding. "You can have your fancy reception in Boston," she'd said, "but this baby needs to be blessed proper in the Lord's house." The guest list was small but meaningful. Grayson's business associates looked completely out of place next to Alana's cousins and childhood friends. Two worlds colliding in the most beautiful way possible. but it was the vows that made everyone cry. "Alana," Grayson said, his voice shaking, "6 months ago, I thought I knew what my life looked like. Empty offices, quiet dinners, success measured in numbers on a screen. Then you walked into my world, and suddenly I understood what I'd been missing. Not just love, but purpose. Not just a partner, but a home." He paused, looking at her belly where their child grew. "You took what could have been a disaster and turned it into a miracle. You taught me that the best things in life can't be planned or bought or controlled. They have to be chosen every single day. And I choose you, Alana Jackson. I choose our baby. I choose this beautiful, complicated, impossible life we're building together." When it was Alana's turn, she could barely speak through her tears. "Grayson, I used to think love was supposed to be easy, that it would come quietly, without complications or consequences. But you taught me that real love is brave. It fights for what matters. It shows up when life gets messy. It sees the person you are, not the person you think you should be." She took his hands, feeling the weight of her new ring. "I love you not because you can solve my problems, but because you trust me to solve them myself. I love you because you see our baby as a blessing, not a burden. I love you because when the whole world was watching, you chose to stand with me instead of hiding from a storm." The kiss that sealed their marriage was soft and sweet and full of promises neither of them had ever dared to make before. What would you promise someone if you knew they'd keep every word? If you found the person who made forever feel possible instead of frightening? The reception was held in Ruth Jackson's backyard, under string lights and a Mississippi sky full of stars. Grayson danced with his new wife to music from a borrowed speaker, surrounded by people who measured wealth in hugs instead of dollars. "No regrets?" Alana asked as they swayed together. "Only one," he said. "What's that?" "That it took a mistake to find you. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was meant to be." As they danced under the southern stars, neither of them could imagine that their biggest test was still coming. That love, no matter how true, would soon face challenges that money couldn't solve and vows couldn't prevent. But tonight, they were just two people who'd found their forever in the most unexpected place. The honeymoon lasted exactly 3 days. They were in Grayson's penthouse, finally alone and married, when Alana doubled over in pain, so sharp it took her breath away. "Something's wrong," she gasped, clutching her stomach. The ride to the hospital felt endless. Grayson held her hand in the back of the ambulance, watching her face go pale as the contractions got stronger. At 24 weeks, the baby wasn't ready. This was too early, too dangerous, too much like losing everything they just found. "Don't you dare leave me," Alana whispered to her belly. "Don't you dare." Dr. Martinez met them at the hospital, the same man whose mistake had started this whole journey. His face was grim as he examined Alana. "Preterm labor," he said. "We need to stop it now, or we'll lose the baby." Have you ever felt your whole world balance on the edge of a cliff? When everything you care about depends on forces completely beyond your control. The next 6 hours were the longest of their lives. Alana lay in a hospital bed, hooked to machines that monitored every heartbeat, every contraction, every sign that their child was fighting to stay. Grayson paced the room like a caged animal. He'd built an empire by controlling every variable, but here he was powerless. All his money, all his influence, meant nothing against biology and chance. "I can't lose this baby," Alana said during a brief break between contractions. "I can't lose the miracle that brought us together." "You won't. We won't. You don't know that." "Then I'm choosing to believe it anyway." The medications worked barely. By dawn, the contractions had stopped, but Dr. Martinez's expression remained serious. "The rest of the pregnancy is high risk," he explained. "Complete bed rest. No stress. No travel. No excitement of any kind." "For how long?" Grayson asked. 16 weeks. "Until the baby is full term." 16 weeks of lying still while their new marriage faced its first real test. 16 weeks of wondering if their happy ending would survive reality. That afternoon, as Alana settled into bed rest in their penthouse, the cracks began to show. "I can work from home," Grayson said, setting up his laptop on the bedroom dresser. Run meetings from here. Cancel all travel. You can't put your whole life on hold for 16 weeks. Watch me. But by the end of the first week, he was climbing the walls. Phone calls that should have been handled in person. Deals that required his physical presence. A company that needed its leader, not a man hiding in a bedroom. Go, Alana said after watching him pace during his 5th conference call of the day. Go to your meetings. Handle your business. I'm not leaving you alone. I'm not alone. I have nurses, Mrs. Chun, and a baby who's staying put. Go be the man I married. What would you do if taking care of the person you love meant stepping away from them? When being present meant being absent from everything else that defined you? Grayson kissed her forehead and left for his first meeting in 2 weeks. Neither of them realized that walking out that door was the beginning of the distance that would nearly destroy them. Because sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes the very thing that brought you together becomes the thing that pulls you apart. 3 weeks in a bed rest, Alana felt like a prisoner in her own life. The penthouse that once seemed like a palace now felt like a glass cage. All she could do was lie there, watching the city through floor-to-ceiling windows, while her husband disappeared into his work. Grayson left early and came home late, bringing flowers and apologies and the smell of the outside world on his clothes. He'd sit on the edge of their bed, telling her about his day while she told him about doctor shows and the books she'd read to pass time. They were living in the same space, but existing in different worlds. "How was the Tokyo meeting?" she asked one evening as he loosened his tie. "Productive. We secured the contract." "That's good." "Yes, very good." The conversation died there, replaced by the sound of traffic 40 floors below. When had talking to each other become so hard? Have you ever felt further away from someone when they're sitting right next to you? When love is still there, but connection feels impossible to find. The breaking point came during Alana's 6th month. She was watching the news when a reporter mentioned Grayson's name in connection with a major acquisition. A deal worth hundreds of millions that he'd never mentioned. When he came home that night, she was waiting. "Were you going to tell me about buying Henderson Technologies?" Grayson stopped in the doorway, his face carefully blank. "It's just business." "Just business?" "It's the biggest deal of your career, and I heard about it on the news. You're supposed to avoid stress. I didn't want to worry you with work details." "Work details? I'm your wife, not an invalid. You're on bed, rest carrying our child. That's more important than any business deal." But his words felt hollow, like something he thought he should say rather than something he believed. That night, they lay in bed with 3 feet of space between them. Close enough to touch, but too far apart to connect. "We're losing each other," Alana whispered into the darkness. "No, we're not. When's the last time you talked to me about something that mattered? When's the last time you asked what I'm thinking instead of how I'm feeling?" Grayson was quiet for so long she thought he'd fallen asleep. Then he said, "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Be married. Be a husband. I've never had to consider another person in my decisions before. So you decided not to consider me at all?" The accusation hit like a physical blow. Because it was true, and they both knew it. "I'm trying to protect you," he said. "From what?" "From being part of your life. What happens when the person you love decides what's best for you without asking what you actually need? When protection becomes another form of abandonment." The next morning, Alana woke up alone. A note on Grayson's pillow said he'd be in Chicago for 3 days. 3 days she'd spend alone with her thoughts and a growing certainty that they were making a terrible mistake. Not the baby. The baby was still their miracle. But the marriage? The marriage was falling apart, one careful, protective lie at a time. She called her grandmother that afternoon, tears streaming down her face. "Grandmama, I think I'm losing him." "Baby girl, you can't lose something you never really had." "What do you mean?" "I mean that boy loves the idea of you, but he's never learned to love the reality of you. And there's a world of difference between the two." The truth of those words cut deeper than any contraction ever could. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning when Alana woke up to find divorce papers being discussed on the financial news. Sources close to Westfield Industries suggest the recent marriage may be in trouble, the reporter said. Stock prices have fluctuated amid rumors of marital discord. Alana grabbed her phone and called Grayson immediately. "Did you see the news?" she asked. "I'll handle it. It's just speculation." "Speculation based on what?" "The fact that you haven't been home in 4 days. I told you. The merger required." "Stop." Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "Just stop lying to me." The silence stretched between them like a canyon. "I'm coming home," he said finally. "Don't." "Not unless you're ready to have a conversation we should have had weeks ago." When Grayson walked into their bedroom that evening, Alana was sitting up in bed with a legal document in her hands. "What's that?" he asked. "Separation agreement. My lawyer drew it up this afternoon." The color drained from his face. "Alana, sit down. We need to talk. Have you ever had to choose between fighting for someone or fighting for yourself? When loving someone meant refusing to let them slowly disappear from your life?" "You've been running from this marriage since our honeymoon ended," she said. "Every time things get complicated, you disappear into work. Every time I need you to be present, you find an excuse to be somewhere else. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you asked me how I'm really doing? Not medically, not physically, but how I'm handling being trapped in this apartment while you get to live your life." Grayson sat on the edge of the bed, his hands clasped tightly together. "I don't know how to be what you need. I need you to try. I need you to stop treating me like a problem to be managed and start treating me like a partner. I'm trying to protect you." "From what?" "From being your wife. From knowing about your business. From being part of the life we're supposed to be building together." The questions hung in the air like accusations. "I've never had to share my life with anyone," he said quietly. "I don't know how." "Then learn. Because I'm not going to sit here and watch you slowly erase me from your world." Alana held up the separation papers. "Either we're married, really married, or we're not. But I won't be some beautiful object you keep in a tower while you live your real life somewhere else." "What do you want from me?" "Everything. I want your fears, your failures, your dreams, your disasters. I want to know when you're struggling and when you're celebrating. I want to be your partner, not your patient." Tears ran down Grayson's face as the weight of what he'd been doing hit him. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I'm scared of losing you. I'm scared of losing the baby. I'm scared that if I let you too far into my world, something will happen to you. And I'm scared that if you don't let me in, I'll lose you anyway." What would you choose if you had to pick between safety and connection? Between protecting someone and trusting them with the truth? Grayson looked at the separation papers, then at his wife's face, and made the hardest decision of his life. "Tear them up," he said. "What?" "Tear up the papers. I want to learn how to be married to you. Really married." As Alana slowly ripped the documents in half, they both knew this was their last chance to get it right. Learning to be married was harder than either of them expected. It started with small things. Grayson asking Alana's opinion on business decisions. Alana sharing her fears about motherhood, instead of pretending everything was fine. The first time he included her in a video conference call with his board of directors, Alana was terrified. These were some of the most powerful people in the business world, and she was sitting in bed wearing pajamas. "Gentlemen," Grayson said, "I'd like you to meet my wife and business partner, Alana Westfield." "Business partner." The words made her chest tight with something that felt like coming home. "Mrs. Westfield," the chairman said, "your husband tells us you have insights about our community outreach programs." For the next hour, Alana talked about real people with real problems, about families like hers who needed opportunities more than charity. The board listened like she was speaking a language they'd never heard before. After the call ended, Grayson kissed her forehead. "You were incredible. I was honest." "Same thing. Have you ever felt the moment when someone stops seeing you as fragile and starts seeing you as strong? When partnership becomes real instead of just a word people use." The second breakthrough came when Alana's water broke at 36 weeks, for weeks before her due date. This time, there was no panic, no fear that everything was falling apart. Just two people working together to bring their child safely into the world. "Remember what we practiced," Grayson said as they rode to the hospital. "Breathe through the contractions. How about everything else? What if something goes wrong? Then we handle it together." Labor lasted 14 hours. Grayson never left her side, feeding her ice chips, rubbing her back, reminding her how strong she was when the pain made her want to quit. When their daughter finally arrived, tiny and perfect and screaming with healthy lungs, Alana looked at Grayson and saw tears streaming down his face. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She looks like you. She's going to be strong like her mother." They named her Hope. Hope Jackson Westfield, a name that honored where Alana came from and where they were going together. The first night home from the hospital, they sat together in the nursery they designed during Alana's bed rest. Hope slept in her crib while her parents marveled at the tiny miracle they'd created. "I was thinking," Grayson said, "about what you said during the board meeting, about families needing opportunities. What about it? What if we started a foundation, something that helps women like you? Single mothers, women who need education funding, fertility support for couples who can't afford it." Alana looked at him in surprise. "You want to use your money to help people like me? I want to use our money to help people like us. People whose lives didn't go according to plan, but who choose to see miracles instead of mistakes. What would you do if you had unlimited resources to fix the problems you'd lived through? If your pain could become someone else's healing?" 6 months later, the Hope Foundation opened its doors. Alana ran it from an office in downtown Boston, no longer hiding in a penthouse, but working alongside her husband to change lives. The girl who'd once cleaned houses now sat in boardrooms, making decisions that affected thousands of people. The man who'd once treated people like problems now understood that the best solutions came from listening to those who'd lived through the struggles. Their love story had started with a mistake in a fertility clinic. It had survived scandal, separation, and the fear that two people from different worlds could never build something lasting together. But as they watched their daughter take her first steps in the foundation's lobby, surrounded by families they'd helped and dreams they'd made possible, Alana and Grayson knew something for certain. Sometimes the most beautiful things in life begin with the most impossible circumstances. Sometimes love isn't about having a plan, but about choosing each other when all the plans fall apart. And sometimes, just sometimes, mistakes become the miracles that save us all.